Okay, so welcome everyone to our faculty meetup. This is the first in the series of Meet and Learn forums that I'm going to start as your faculty professional development coordinator. I haven't gotten used to the new title yet. So my plan is to start these forums so that we can learn from each other, and I want to get a feedback from you all. What kind of topics you like to be shared during these meetings? So let's begin with how do I advance to my, okay, there we go. So what I'm going to talk about today, you must have seen the promo for this faculty meetup, is that I want to ask these few questions. I hope it's not too many. What are the limitless demands of teaching? Let's go one by one. I want to pick on your brains. I want to find out what are those demands of teaching, because among us, some are veteran faculty who are probably retired, right, Fred?
Yeah, 1 week.
1 more week. And those of us who are probably in the middle of our teaching journey, and others who are probably newbies, or they are just starting their journey, their faculty journey. So what are those limitless demands of teaching? Let's just go ahead. I'm not planning to mute everyone. So anyone, so as and when you want to talk, just say something. I want to know what are those limitless demands of teaching, so that we can, so we start with that question and then we get to the root causes of workplace related stress, and then we move on. So I'm all ears. I don't want to give my point of view. Mine would be last. So let's hear from you first.
So are we talking pre-COVID?
Yes, probably so. Yes. Or post-COVID. I don't know. I hope it will come post soon. Yes.
Well, I'll go first. So for me, it's what I call the amatic effect. And what I mean by that is if you go to the November conference, right, you pick up all these great ideas and you have this sudden brainwash to do 50 different new things the next semester because you suddenly have all these great ideas. And you realize quickly that, okay, I can only do 1 or 2 or so. But you still in the back, at least for me, in the back of my mind, there's always this nagging feeling that, oh, I should be able to do more. There's another great assignment, or there's another cool thing, or there's another video, or another something. So I think one of the limitless demands, at least for me, is this idea that I haven't quite done enough. Oh, good. I see some heads nodding. I'm not the only one.
No, I think I'm going to steal that phrase, the amatic effect. I like it. I like it because I feel like my brain doesn't shut off. You know, you're trying to think of these things just like you said. I'm going to steal that phrase.
Well, I love it. I think amatic is doing a good job, right? Amatic effect. That is lovely. So other stresses.
Well, some of it is just I've been teaching since 93, I think. And well, I'm at a community college in Virginia, and you know, over the years, they've been pushing more and more technology. You have to have videos, you have to have this. I have students who don't even own computers, and they don't have any way of getting computers. And so, of course, that's different in an online class when they know they're registering for it, and that's a requirement. But I feel that it's giving the students who are already disadvantaged a disadvantage. They can't see these videos. They can't download this assignment. They can't do all this other extra stuff. A lot of our classes now, all the homework's online. They can't do their homework unless they're on campus. And we have so many students who are working full-time and raising children, sometimes raising their siblings instead. And I don't even feel like we're in a hugely disadvantaged area, Southeastern Virginia. but the number of students who simply had to drop out when we switched to, virtual classes, I probably had a good 15% of my students disappear. So even with the school was giving away laptops, companies were giving away free internet and Wi-Fi, but even with that, plus, one of my students has 5 children, 4 of which had to do their homework online. And so it's not as much, it's a concern for me, but in a way it won't be an issue because they simply won't be able to take classes next semester. So I won't have to deal with them, but that's horrifying. And just sort of like you were saying, Rob, not to be like all of those, I had to walk to school uphill both ways through the snow, but it's literally never done. Sort of like you were saying, there's always something more to try online. There's always more videos to try. And there was some of that when it was just paper and pencil, but not as much. Now we have access to everything, and the job is literally never done with the, 50 to 100 emails you get from students every single day. Not to mention, the 100 from administration, but let's not go there.
So that adds extra stress on you as a faculty, because each one of us that we are in this teaching world, we have a calling for it, right? We didn't get into this job for salary, right? It wasn't the salary, it was the calling, it was the love for teaching that got us to this point. I fully understand you, Julia, very valid point. Any other thoughts? What are the other demands of teaching? How about teaching multiple courses?
It didn't help this semester going halfway through. I had 6 classes, but 6 courses.
Wow.
And when it's paper and pencil on campus, somehow it didn't matter as much that I didn't have the reputation. But suddenly here, every single thing I'm doing, I can't do anything on the fly. And it was 6 different, which, has always been difficult, but it really was something I could do face to face. And I know I'm complaining a lot, and I apologize. I'm exhausted.
It's okay.
I'm exhausted.
That's perfectly okay.
First, Julia, if you take a look at individual responses or situations you mentioned, there are some things that can help, like the voluminous number of emails. If there's a way you can get a reply you can copy and paste when someone's asking a course or discipline or institution-related question, you can just copy it in there and say, "Dear so-and-so, that's a great question. Could you do me a favor? Could you please post it on," I'm assuming you have a discussion board for all your classes, on-site and online.
Yeah, it's very difficult getting most of my students to use it.
You've got to lure them there. And one way is to show that that's the way that they all help each other. That's the fastest way to get a question answered. That's the fastest way to address a concern. And so let me continue. That response is, "That's a great question. Could you do me a favor?" Other students I have it memorized. Other students may be wondering the same thing. "Could you please post it in the discussion board? I promise to reply. I or another student will reply right away. Thank you, I appreciate it." And so right away, within the first few days of the semester, students will learn that's the place that they need to turn to for support and concern and questions. And then quite often, as you visit your discussion boards, you'll see that other students are answering the questions even before you have a chance to. So distribute the load.
Absolutely. Very, very valid point. In fact, I had a student ask me a question last night. I said, well, it's just a question. Then this morning, the same question was asked. I said, okay, hands up. I'm not going to repeat the same thing. So I posted that solution to the discussion forum. I said to him that since this could be useful for many others, so please, in future, post all your questions to discussion forum. And here is my response. Go to the discussion forum. I posted in Ask My Instructor section of the discussion board. So yes, it takes a lot of training to reduce the number of emails that you receive from the students. I'm with you. I have been teaching online for the past 20 some years, and it can get very, very hectic. But it all boils down to little, um, like that point that Fred just pointed out. You have to spread the load so that they feel.
You want to respond right away. That's our impulse. That's why we went into teaching. You want to help students. But so immediately when they ask a question, that the same day or the next day, that should be your response. Post it in the discussion board. That way we can help each other. And I really appreciate it. And they'll soon see. The other thing you mentioned was the number of courses you're teaching. Now, Julia, what insane desire elected you to pick 6 different preps? You know, that is to your chair. No way. I want a maximum of 3 preps.
Well, for now, we're extremely understaffed, and none of them were new preps. So if I'm doing it face to face, there really wasn't, you know, much of an issue. There's some courses, of course, there's always, like you said, new things to do, but I have the material memorized. I know the answers to, you know, 99.999% of any question they're going to ask. But yes, this is unusual, and they did, like I said, our school had a hiring freeze for the last 3 years. We've hired 4 full-time positions in my department, even with the freeze. So some of that is, my understanding is the average course load for our department has been 38 credits a year, even though nobody wants overload. So, but yeah, so that was just hopefully a special circumstance. And next semester, she's guaranteed, she's trying no more than 2 preps, but no more than 3 is the guarantee. But yeah, it turned out to be a bad choice this semester.
Yeah, didn't it? Yeah, double whammy.
Yeah.
What about as one of the stress factors, being available to our students individually throughout the semester? Do you think that could be one of the demands of teaching?
I think so. Just because, well, at midnight, they want an answer to their question. And I'm going, well, I may not be there at midnight or 1 or 2. You might not get that answer until 8 o'clock. But I agree with class load and everything what was said before. I had 11 classes in the spring, 6 preps, and trying to put those all online, and the fact I had never taught online in my life. So this was all new to me.
Wow.
But I made it, you know, and I only lost a couple students. I was really surprised. Only a couple withdrew, but it's been different. But yeah, students, you can tell them you have virtual office hours. You can say, make an appointment, we can talk, but it's usually those 1, 2 a.m. you know, times. And I don't have a smartphone. I have a dumb phone. So, you know, I don't have access always at 1 and 2 a.m. in the morning. So I let them know they may have to wait until 8 a.m. when I, you know, wake my computer up.
Hey, that is totally reasonable. In fact, you could even say, normally I'm only available from 8 to 5 or 8 to 8, you know, just limit your workday to 12 hours.
Right. Well, I do, but they still email.
After hours or off-peak hours, they go to their peers.
Exactly.
Good idea. Yeah, I like that idea of going to the discussion board on that.
You tell them right up front in your syllabus, I'm online until 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. But the best way to address a concern or ask a question is to post it to your fellow classmates.
Right.
I or another student will reply right away. And so, yeah, you've got to limit your hours. I mean, myself, I shut my computer off, I don't know, about 10 o'clock, I guess. And but I don't start till 10 in the morning. So I work a 12-hour day. But set clear expectations. You can even say it. My response will be 48 hours
Yeah.
or less, not including weekends and holidays.
Well, ours is 24 hours during the weekdays and 48 hours during the weekdays and holidays. So that is the protocol. Now, what about publishing and speaking at conferences, professional development, right? Teaching all these many courses, we are also expected, we are reviewed at the end of the year, right? Whether in whatever way or fashion, we are expected to have professional development done. We need research, attending conferences, speaking at conferences. What are your thoughts on that? Isn't that also another demand?
I've learned so much from my peers at these conferences, not only in the sessions, but also in hallway conversations and late night talks in the bars.
Aha! I like that. I see, Flynn.
Another demand is like advising students. I've just received an email this morning from a student needing advising because at Hopkinsville, they can't register for classes until they contact their academic advisor. So there's a lot of that going on. I don't mind conferences. I think that's one of the perks of teaching. But then at our school, we're required to do what they call internal service. Of course, that's committees, and then external service, working in the community, and a lot of times and then leadership. And you get a lot of that, trying to get all that balanced. I'm going to start this fall my 48th year of teaching. The first 20 were high school, but the rest have been community college. And I love teaching. I figure I'll be around at least another 5 years teaching unless my health gives up. But I'm doing pretty good right now. So, but it's all the other things besides the teaching demands that we have, that we're required to do as part of our job.
So it's like attending departmental and committee meetings to help raise the profile of the institution, right? I mean, at some point we were asked that we need to go to football games. I'm saying football games. I mean, I never go to football games in my entire life. That's not my interest. Why should I just attend one? Okay, I'll do something else. So yeah, there are things that we have to do. We are asked by our institution. On top of all that, raising children, right? Those of us who do have children, caring for ailing parents, on those demands, right? After all, teaching is our profession, but we are, you know, a human being first. So we have either kids or, you know, we have ailing parents that we have to look after. And of course, all the household chores, we have to cook, you know, all those demands that are surrounding all this. Now, I want to share some statistics with you that the Higher Education Research Institute, they conducted a faculty study in 2014, it's 6-year-old, that reported faculty felt stress resulted from lack of personal time, that was 74%, and teaching load, which was 63%. So those are causes of stress, lack of personal time and teaching load. So I guess we have to look after ourselves, if we want to be like Sally, right? Working this many years and enjoying it, because the key is to enjoy what you do. So let's go to the next item. What are the root causes of workplace-related stress? What are the root causes of those? I want to start us off with saying rising enrollment of college-age millennials. That's the one thing I have on my list. What else comes to your mind?
Well, I was going to say working with Sally all these years, but I don't think that would be appropriate since she's here.
Oh, you two are colleagues.
No, Sally does a wonderful job. She makes She's really good at what she does. So
Oh, she
that's not
must
a
be.
stress. Yeah.
She must be.
Thank
That
you
she,
for that.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So rising enrollment of college-age millennials, what next? So we are looking for root causes of workplace-related stress.
I
Can we
think
talk about what's happening right now here in the spring and in the summer? Changing everything that you had planned to do in a second, and trying to make sure that you are using practices and procedures in an online environment that, you know, some of our students don't have the tools to be successful in that world at this point. And I'm stressed out for them. And, you know, our colleges have done everything they think they have done everything they can to help for that. But that is a big stress. This is, and, you know, my coworker, my 4 dogs and husband have been stressing me out beyond belief at this point. But no, I think it's the outside influences that you don't know about that really account for a lot of stress there right now.
What about the increased size of classes?
Can I piggyback off of what Julie just said?
Go ahead.
I don't know if you can hear me. This is AJ. I'm at
Yes.
Oast Coast Community College. And I think for me, one of the root causes of my workplace stress is my emotional attachment to my position and to my students.
Oh.
So sometimes I find myself pushing myself more than maybe I can, just because I feel like I need to do the best that I can so they can be the best they can be, because they are amazing, with or without me, you know. And I just, at the minimum, I would like to remove barriers, right? So they can just excel at their own. And just that emotional hit day after day of, oops, I did it again, or oops, that's not enough. Oops, I put up a barrier, right? Like, that's really hard to come to grips with. And it makes me so sad on a constant basis. And that's like taxing. Just trying to make sure that, like, I don't make it worse, right? And I try to stay away from the saving them mentality. I just don't want to get in their way. That's what I can do, right? And it's exhausting, and I'm tired. And I probably do way more than I should. But that's my root cause, is my emotional attachment to other human beings.
Oh. So you put too much stress on yourself, AJ.
Yep.
That is not good.
I've been doing it since I was this big, though, so it's okay.
Oh. Wow.
I have a 6-year-old that grounds me, though, so we're good.
You're a true teacher. Yeah. Good heart. Good heart.
AJ, that's a great thing. You're to be commended for
Yes.
that feeling. What you need to do is, I think, is motivate and coach and mentor more than make all your responses perfect, and put that kind of pressure on yourself instead. Well, let me tell you about a study that was done. Have you ever heard of the grandmother effect? Anybody? No. Well, a group of math students were divided into 3 groups to prepare for a test. The first group met with the teacher, where the professor lectured and answered questions and showed examples at great length. The second group met with peer tutors who tried to work with them and help them with their math questions. The third group met with an elderly woman who, when they asked questions, would respond like, "Oh, well, that's a tough question. Oh, I can see why you asked about that. What do you think we should do?" Or did your teacher say anything about how to handle those types of questions? Or is there anything in the book about that type of question? Or do you have any notes that we could look at maybe that would tell us how to answer that question? Because I don't really know the answer. That's a good question. And so on. Guess which group scored the highest on the exam?
Last one.
Grandmother group.
Oh.
That anecdote will realize that your job isn't to explain everything, to have all the answers for everything, to word everything perfectly. Your job instead is to teach students to learn how to learn and become self-reliant, autonomous learners. That's the buzzword. Teach students how to become autonomous learners and less reliant on you. Does that make any sense?
Very much. That's a great advice.
Take some of the pressure off you, AJ.
Yeah.
May I interject on that? As a former math tutoring supervisor director, the way the grandmother responded is pretty close to what tutors are supposed to be doing. So if you have tutors who are giving answers and doing the work for the student, they are not performing tutoring the way it's supposed to be done. So it even, well, when you were telling the story and then the grandmother said, I don't know how to do that. I thought, well, I have tutored a few times that way when I was helping some students doing calculus, and I haven't done calculus for so long. But we got to the right answer, even though I didn't know what I was doing. But I just used that same approach.
And you have to be careful not to balance it with something that might be interpreted as disinterest.
Absolutely.
You know, I asked the professor a question, and he didn't help for shit.
Exactly.
You have to be careful too of microaggressions. Oh, that's a stupid question. Oh, you should know that. Even if you don't say that literally, sometimes students can read that in your facial expression. So be careful about that. Show a great deal of empathy and concern and sympathy, but that sounds like what you're doing, AJ. So I don't think you're going to have that problem at all. They're going to see your level of concern and empathy. That's great. Show it. Wear it on your, what do they say? Wear your sleeve. No, wear your heart on your sleeve, AJ. Keep it up.
On your sleeve. Yeah.
Well, so I wonder if tied to that, and maybe this is just my school, it feels like the administration is never happy with what we've done. They're always wanting more. And I understand that there's pressures coming from all over about budgets, and especially going into this fall with lower probably enrollments, et cetera, et cetera. But it feels like that the administration is never happy with what we've done. They're like, oh, well, you need to do this more, or depending on which news cycles you watch, right, it's those darn educators who are the problem with all these students today, or whatever sort of a thing. And so I wonder if there's just a general sort of anti-education vibe that, even if we don't believe it, I don't believe it for a second, but right, you hear it so often it kind of starts pushing in a bit, and you're like, ugh. And so just I think the emotional energy of pushing back, even subconsciously, in addition to all the other emotional stressors, I think is one of the things that's sort of wearing us down.
Are you saying that these are the demands that the administration is having for us?
Well, I think that's part of it, right? I mean, the several here, and we're under a hiring freeze too, and we've already been warned by our department chair that, hey, you're probably going to teach double or maybe even triple overloads and blah, 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 blah. So all of us are kind of experiencing that. But then also we're expected to do more with the same or maybe less, right? Put everything online, create all these awesome videos, and you got to have the videos captioned, and not just any videos, but your videos for your students, and homework and group work and active learning. And I went to this education conference and heard about this. We need to all do this now too. Oh, I can see some smiles. And so even if it's just pushing back and saying, okay, no, we're doing fine, there's emotional energy in doing that also, so I think that just piles on to everything else that's going on.
Absolutely. How about it when there are cuts? Like, for instance, for us in Georgia, we have a 15% cut. But yet, with all that cut, we are expected to have professional development done. You know, everything has to be just like before, but no money. There's no help financially. You just go figure it out. We have to dip into our own pockets, and find the money to go to conferences or, attend webinars and stuff. So that is another stress that you have to, it's on you to find ways, to find money to attend those professional developments.
I think the biggest stress factor I've experienced in the last few years has been bureaucratic requirements like SLOs, student learning outcomes. They have to be created, they have to be measured, they have to be assessed, and then we do nothing with them. It's just so much busy work. RSI, regular and substantive interaction. Not only do we have to do it, we have to document it. And it has to be documented in the college learning management system, which is Canvas. But I do everything here in my lab. And so I have to spend, God, I don't know, it's like 40 hours at the end of every semester documenting my interaction and putting it into Canvas. And I have so many more important things I need to be doing with my time instead of busy work and bureaucracy.
It's gotten better, but at one point we had to put our office hours 7 different places because apparently the students just couldn't find them. Or the administration couldn't find them. I don't know, literally 7 different places. And it's like you're saying, all this extra stuff, we need to upload our attendance. We're supposed to take it online, like in a special system, which takes ever so much longer. I know some people, it's the same amount of time, but I spend so much time, like you're saying, doing all this double work, putting things different places, having to do this. Some of it's wonderful. We have a new early alert system, contacting students, and well, actually we don't do it. We happen to have wonderful advising, and we don't do student advising in terms of classes officially. So that actually recently has been taken off, but it's this double work. Like I said, I think we only need to put office hours like 3 places now, so. Oh, but slightly different question. Are you all having problems? We have certain qualifications, requirements before someone can teach online. So most of our adjuncts are no longer qualified to teach online. And when I joined the department, we had 21 faculty. We have 14 now.
My school, they, in the past, according to our contract, they have to pay you to do online teaching training before you teach online. So this semester, when it became clear that those of us, including myself, who have never taught online needed to be taught, they decided to call it remote teaching instead of online teaching because they didn't have the funding to have people get paid to do the training. And then they intentionally made the training slightly different so that the union wouldn't file a grievance saying you're forcing them to do the training by a different name. But it reminds me a little bit of what you're saying. It's kind of ridiculous. Like suddenly we just call it something else so that we won't pay people to do something that we normally pay them for, and then we'll actually give them less training. So you don't even get the full online training because they don't want a grievance saying even if you're willing to do it without pay, they won't give you the training without pay because then like someone who did want to get paid for doing that would file a grievance. So I hear you. It's crazy. Just call it something else so that they can get you to do what they need you to do and still not violate the contract and not find money somewhere else to like honor the contract.
Wow.
Julie, I appreciate what you just said. It's kind of funny because we're preparing for our fall term, and I thought I knew what I was teaching in the fall, and then with everything happening, I have to do the training for online teaching. And then there was this new option that appeared out of the blue called real-time virtual. So we've gotten to this point where I think colleges and places are trying to, bureaucracy is trying to figure out a better way to define things for students, and synchronous and asynchronous wasn't doing it. So we now have an entire category called real-time virtual. So when students enroll in these real-time virtual, they're signing up for class times just like they were attending face-to-face. And it's an amazing thing because I'm thinking, how are they going to get the word out about what the heck real-time virtual is? How are they sharing this message? So my dean literally wrote me yesterday and said, you're going to be teaching 2 real-time virtuals and you're going to have a Calc 1 fully online. How's your training going? And I was like, And so I'm like, am I getting trained for real-time virtual? I mean, I don't even know what that is really, except that I'm doing real-time virtual.
Julie, I don't know if this is anything in your control, but we have because we're doing both of those, because our students, sometimes you have to request off work at this particular time, or again, they're better when they're actually, it's more like a classroom, but it's listed in the catalog as meaning Monday, Wednesday, 2 to 3 or whatever, 2 to 3:15, and the ones that are listed as online don't have a time actually. Well, it's like Saturday, 12:01 a.m. to 12:02 p.m. or something, because the system needs something. But I don't know if that's anything you can suggest, but ours actually has a time for the ones that are synchronistic, and they don't have a time for the other ones.
Well, yeah, that's what it says, but I'm wondering how you share that message. Now I'm worried about enrollment, right? So now I'm worried that this is 12 credit hours of my load are these real-time virtual. And if those don't happen, then everything that I prepared is now gone. Like I'm not going to be able to do that. And I'm going to have to scramble and do what I did in the spring and prepare something super fast, because obviously in order to have a load, I need to be able to teach my hours. So I'm really concerned that 12 credit hours of my time is this real-time virtual, and students have no clue what it is.
So
And it does have a time slot though.
So does it mean that, say, for instance, on Monday, Wednesday, you actually go to a class, but this class is virtual, and you start teaching for, say, 1.5 hours, 2 hours?
Yes, and we have to do exactly the student learning outcomes. Like I have to define exactly what I'm planning on doing every day and put it in, like it has to be on the site so that students know that these are my learning objectives for the day. These are, it's a whole new, I mean, I did that in high school, so don't get that wrong when I taught high school. But at the college level, I think that we all understand what we're trying to accomplish in that day for that lesson. And we have to say how we're going to incorporate active learning in this real-time virtual setting, how we are going to, everything has to be accounted for in this lesson plan that we have to create every day. So keep in mind, so this is the worst part. This class is two 6-credit hour classes. It is intermediate and college algebra combined. It's our version of co-requisite model. And it's an open educational resource textbook, so the textbook's free. And so literally today I was like, I'm making a video and I want you to send this video out to all the students that might be interested in taking intermediate algebra and college algebra as a combined course, so that I can get enrollment. Because first of all, it's the combined course. They can't register for it on their own. They're going to have to call the advising office or the math department. And it is now at a time slot as opposed to other things. So I'm freaking out. That's 12 hours of my load and I have no idea. So this was yesterday. So I'm reeling.
Wow. So
Please, I don't understand. Do you mean on a class by class basis, you have to submit lesson plans? What you're going to do every day, every class?
Because I'm one of the first professors to do real-time virtual, I have to submit what I'm planning on doing every day to show that I am incorporating active learning in my lecture setting. It is not meant to be just a lecture that the students watch and then they're done for the day. If you're doing real-time virtual, you have to set up what your day is looking like when you have these hour and 15-minute sessions.
What a lack of trust.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just
Disheartening.
like high school. Just like high school.
On the other hand, it might serve as a template for other faculty to copy who are less experienced than you. Maybe you're doing others a favor as long as you can share that with your department. But man,
that's the point. I think that's why she called me yesterday and asked me to do it. She said very few people had volunteered to do real-time virtual, and the schedule goes live like next week. And she said, so can you do it? And I was like, so can you guarantee that all this work that I put in, I'm going to have a class to teach and we are not going to scramble, because this is a lot of work. And she said, I'm going to do my best to help you recruit. And I was like, all right, that's good enough for me.
Wow.
So I'm making a video today for her to send out to all students that are eligible to take those classes.
Wow.
You guys are giving me great suggestions. I'm writing them down.
That's a lot. That is a lot. Any
So this
other-
combo intermediate college algebra it often has difficulty attracting sufficient enrollment? Did I hear
No,
that right?
it doesn't have difficulty. It doesn't have difficulty attracting it. The problem is that they don't have it set up so students can enroll themselves, because intermediate is a prerequisite for college algebra. So they have to reach out and talk to an advisor or talk to the math department. I've always had full enrollment. I've always had 28 students or so every term. It's a class that I helped design, and I love it. I love that class. I just wasn't sure how I would do that in the fall, since we have absolutely no face-to-face in the fall. None. No hybrid, nothing. We are all virtual.
That'll be one of the challenges for me, even though I know there's the whole social present concept, and some of us are better than others. Just the amount of random conversation I have with my students before and after class, which is much harder to do, online. Sometimes some of my students stay after and we discuss these things, but I have so many students with so many interesting situations, sometimes problems, and it's just not the same interaction when it's online. And that's just unfortunately one of my favorite parts of the job.
Julie, I've really found, maybe because I've been doing it for a few years now, having synchronous components in an online class, how engaging and personal it can be. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons I've been able to do that is when class time starts, and it's listed in the schedule. It was a college algebra with support course, of which it was listed in the schedule, a requirement to be online every Wednesday night from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Every week. You have to be from any computer anywhere.
Is that outside of class?
It was part of the class. It was the support course. So it's a 6-unit combo course. College algebra 4 units, support for college algebra 2 units. And that 2-unit support class was listed in the schedule as 1 hour arranged online and 1 hour Wednesday evening, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. It was listed that way in the schedule.
Okay. So, yeah, we can only do that if it is, like you said, in the official schedule. The class meets at that time, but we don't always have the same instructors for our co-rec and the other class.
We did. We had the same. It's a cohort. It's a cohort.
Yeah.
College course and the support course, same group of students, same professor. And you're right. At first, I didn't have it listed in the schedule, and I got crappy attendance. Maybe 10, 20% max would attend these synchronous webinars. But when I had it listed in the schedule, I now get about 80% attendance. And the people who missed the live class meetings have to watch the recording and post a summary with comments and feedback. And they're great for the 2-unit support course. But back to your original question and concern about engagement and personal relationships. For that, I find that I show up about 10 minutes early, and the informal chats that I have during those 10 minutes are sometimes the most valuable part of the webinar. And then even then, when I push the record button, the first 10 minutes are just informal chat. How are you doing? How's your family? How's your health? And so on. And I mentioned earlier about their webcams must be turned on. And it's a small group. It was 25 students, but I could see everybody in gallery view, just like I was standing in front of the room. I could see their facial expressions. I could see their hand signals. I always ask for thumbs up or thumbs down if you understand something. I know you can do that in the chat box, but it's much easier in gallery view to just get a quick scan of their faces.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can require webcams.
Well, try it. You just say I encourage it. But I don't have it written anywhere that webcams are required, but I do say it. Audio and webcams need to be turned on. I've never had a problem. And students can take Sharpies and write on paper And you know, if they just use a regular pen or pencil, you can't see their work. But if they use a thick Sharpie pen and hold that up to their webcam, you can see their math. You can see their graphs. You can see their integrals, their fractions, their radicals, their subscripts and superscripts, and it works great. And then I also, you know, what was the most valuable was the breakout groups. Took me a year or more to learn how to use breakout groups effectively, but that turned out to be the most valuable part of remote teaching, is breaking the class up into small groups of 3 to 5 students each. And then you visit those groups, you bounce in and out of those groups. And I got to know my students as well as I do in the classroom using that feature. I lecture as little as possible. I mean, I'd still say it's 50, 60, 70% lecturing, but I also give them a problem after a mini lesson, and I actually get up and leave my office. I get out of the room. I remove the authoritarian presence of the professor. And I say, you know, if it's a small enough group, you guys can talk to and see and hear each other. Please help each other. I'm leaving the room. I'll be back in 5 minutes, and we can share what you learned. That gives me a break. I go into the kitchen and have a glass of wine. Sit down in the living room. My wife is watching TV, and she catches me up on what she's watching. It's an emotional break. Talk about stress reducer. You can't sit there in front of a camera and lecture and be the focus of attention for an hour or two. It's draining. So 2 or 3 times during each remote teaching synchronous session, I get up out of the office, I leave, and let them work collaboratively with each other. And they've told me they get to know each other as if they even talk. There was one class where they even talked, they were kind of shy in the classroom. And when the pandemic hit and we transitioned to online, I noticed they were working collaboratively with each other more than they were in the classroom. I was shocked.
Mine was exactly the opposite.
Oh, no. I wonder why.
Yeah, it was interesting because I watched my extroverts turn into introverts and my introverts turn into extroverts in the online world. It was a dichotomous viewpoint that I hadn't seen. And I think most of you know me, I'm a total extrovert. So it was an interesting thing watching myself turn into an introvert in the online world, because I knew everything was being recorded. I knew it was a very interesting flip of the switch for myself. And I would say to you that I love breakout rooms. I love that they have whiteboard space. They can collaborate together. If they have touchscreen computers, it's better. Writing with a mouse is a pain in the neck, but it is amazing watching them collaborate on the whiteboard. Sometimes I'll walk into I liken breakout rooms to putting students in like a little study group carols, like they're all together, so only they can hear each other. And I literally can eavesdrop on them. I actually have 5 computers going at once so that I can hear the conversations, so that I can pop in from time to time and see, because I can go in, I clone myself, and so I'm in all 5 rooms. So that allows for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I tell them because sometimes I don't want to talk and I just want to give them a hint. And I tell them, you guys can use anything for annotate. If you see something in red, it's because I'm giving you a hint to have you think about. And I just don't say anything else. I literally just write a formula down, or I write a suggestion, or close. You know, sometimes I write close because they've forgotten to put the units on it. The most fun I had with this was recently. I've been teaching related rates. So I always find it fascinating how messed up they are with liters and volume. They're like, but there's no cubic on it. I'm like, no, liters are capacity. They are volume. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, and I'm like, so what's in your water bottle right now? And we have that conversation. But it's a fascinating phenomenon that they're not quite like, it was an interaction that I wouldn't have had in the classroom, because I wouldn't have heard them saying, well, it's not cubic, so it can't be volume. She didn't give us volume. And I'm like, no, it's the paper. It's a problem that I found with a real life example. But yeah, so I love it because my interaction has grown among the students. I have 55 students in my 2 calculus classes, and I have these interactive sessions called jam sessions. I call them Julie's awesome mathematics sessions. And so they tend these jam sessions, and I have about 25. So I have 5 in a room, and they're working together on whatever it is that I give them.
Awesome. I need to skip this other question and move on to how to find a balance. Let's see. Many people, they find it difficult, and in fact, they resent the word balance, work and life. Some people, they like it called integrate work and life. So here are a few suggestions. Look after yourself. See, let me know if you have other thoughts. Look after yourself. There is only one of us. Keep inbox clean. Get organized, and that organization is the key. And liven up your class, because what I have found out for myself, when I try to liven up my classes with new technology, with new things, it's just like I get lively. I become lively. I get up in the morning, I say, oh, wow, this new thing I'm trying. Let's see how it's working. I want to see students' feedback. You know, I send them surveys to find out how this new thing is working out. So this is what would make our teaching life, you know, lively and different than what it was a few months ago. So those are my thoughts. Let's see if you have any other thoughts for me. I have 4 minutes, and I have another question for you.
I ask my students almost every week, what did you do this week to keep yourself sane?
There we go.
Got all kinds of, again, great suggestions. And then, of course, they asked me. So I had to share. Well, one thing I do is make my bed every morning. My job. It's my job in the house to make our bed. Funny, I used to slack off on that, but I started doing it every day. It makes me feel better. And then I go out.
I was watching a webinar. Someone was saying that, you know, every day when I get up, I have this little notebook, and this is my notebook. And she was saying that any day that I get up, on top of the list is making my bed. And it makes me feel good. She said, crossing that out, I made my bed. So, because she said I didn't used to doing that. So that is what I put on my to-do list. So yeah, again, it's just, you know, being organized, have a list, of a to-do list every day.
Yeah, but asking your students what they're doing and giving everyone a chance to participate empowers them, shows them you care.
Absolutely.
And they all help each other.
Yes.
And we'll all learn some new things too.
Absolutely. And that's how we learn. We learn from our students. Those are the ones that who are with us all along. Any other thoughts? Because the last question I have for you all is that this was our first faculty meetup. I'm planning to have these sessions once every quarter. So I'm looking for a topic for the next 3 months. So in 3 months, I want to have another faculty meetup. So any thoughts, what topics interest you, so that just casual talk among us. This is how we learn from each other. So let me know. I'm all ears.
Well, I love what Julie was suggesting about all the different ways to incorporate active learning into online classes. That was a challenge for me. So
different ways of incorporating active learning into online class.
I agree with
the same thing. Strategies for teaching virtual online classes.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good topic, actually, especially with a lot of colleges going to strictly online.
Mm-hmm. What else? Any other thoughts?
Well, maybe tied to that, another one thing I learned, or one thing I learned or did well, and one thing I later learned or did not well this past spring with whatever the transition was. And I think as a separate session, I think that could tie in because, right, one of the things that's nice about Ematic is like, I'm thinking about doing this, and I can hear somebody else talk about how they did that and go, oh, okay, maybe I won't do that, or oh, good to know to avoid these things. So it might be nice to have all of us kind of share, or at least a few people ahead of time say, hey, this is what I did. This didn't work for my students. This is what I did. This did work, sort of a thing.
So how would you, what would be the title of something, that kind of a forum?
Or okay, or maybe just here's one thing that worked, and get an email 20 or 30 people who sign up, everybody who signs up, and say, hey, send me one slide of here's what worked, and everybody takes 2 minutes, 1 minute to talk their one slide, and that gives you 20 or 30 slides and some time in between.
That's interesting.
I agree with Rob. I think that'd be a great idea. You could get a lot of ideas in a short time. And I think most of us here have a lot of really good ideas that we don't think are really good ideas because we've never really shared them with anyone. So I think maybe starting to hear some of these things, and then maybe another one we could talk about the things that didn't work. But let's start with the positive.
Positive. Good job. Yes. Yes.
Well, or instead of saying didn't work, say things I tried and I want to improve on. Maybe that's a better phrasing.
Things I tried.
What about something about testing and assessments online and the different ways people are doing? Sorry, my bird is talking. Different ways people, work that out so that to minimize the cheating or whatever.
Good point. Great
this might be a less immediate thing, but I would love to have a chance to talk about more the not teaching parts of our jobs with other people. I feel like there's a million opportunities for professional development and talking about the teaching sometimes, but nobody to talk about managing the service components and the professional development expectations and pulling it together. And I'd love a space for that.
And what would you call that space?
The other stuff.
Oh, the other stuff. I love it.
That works.
The many hats of academia.
Yes.
Aha. The many hats of academia. In fact, that was my intention for creating this forum. I wanted it to be relaxed. No one has prepared anything other than me, just few thoughts, so that we have a direction for our forum. I wanted it to be relaxed so that there would be a space to kind of pour our hearts out. There's nobody to listen to us, so but ourselves. That's my intention, because webinars, we do have formal webinars, and also I'm in process of creating teaching tip videos, and all these topics that were mentioned in the beginning about assessment and active learning. There are faculty who are those videos for us, and those will be announced as soon as they're ready. So at least they get it to me. So I wanted really this forum to be, and I like the idea that, what's that, Rob, that he said the things I tried and I want to improve. That is a very casual one. So I would probably, if you want to call me, I'll email you to send me one page, a PowerPoint of the things you tried that didn't work, and that would start a conversation. How's that? Would that work? Carrie, would you think that would be a casual space for us to talk about things?
To talk about those types of things, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Any other thoughts?
I do want to apologize. I might not be doing contributing things like that. Honestly, I'm depressive, and the semester just completely wore me out. Plus, I've had a couple of friends who've tried to commit suicide, and so I was the one dealing with that. And I'm just worn out. So I apologize that I might be taking your ideas and not contributing.
Oh, no. In fact, that was actually going to be, I don't know how many of these we're planning on doing in the next whatever, Benaz, but maybe we could all share our one tip for the emotional side of this. Not only just the transition side of it, but it sounds like most of us are going to be online or partly online in some format. So what's one trick to make, or one thing you did to feel a connection with the students? Because when I've done online before, it's too easy to be so disconnected that it almost feels like I'm just check a box on a robot and the robots are checking boxes back at me. And so maybe that's an idea for a topic we could all share about one thing I did to help me emotionally stay grounded or get through this sort of a thing. But yeah, no, don't apologize for that, Julie. That's the whole point of a gathering. It's we all learn from each other.
Absolutely. Do not feel apologetic. We are all here to help each other out. That is the purpose of this forum, okay? We are so glad you are here with us, Julia. Okay, yes, and thank you so much for all your insightful comments. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with us. I learned so much from all of you and look forward to another productive forum. So,
You too. Thanks, Benaz.
Thank you.
Thanks, Benaz. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Let me know if there is anything I can do to help you in your professional development. That's what I'm here for.
Great. Thank you so much.